G'day guys, you're back with Miracle Max. Today in the workshop we have a Mitsubishi Triton MN model 2013 I believe, with a 2.5 4D56 engine in it. Wow, that's a long mouthful. So as part of the manufacturer's scheduled service, I'll be carrying out valve clearance adjustments. So I thought I'd bring you along for the ride. Okay, for starters, even before we get onto the vehicle, I want to emphasise how many photos you need to take. Take photos, just random photos all over the place. Connectors, wiring looms, pipes, vacuum hoses, covers, bolts, anything that you can think of, take a photo of. You'll really be grateful for it when you start to put it back together. To begin with, we need to pull off some covers, engine cover, front cover, etc, etc. So let's head over to the vehicle and I'll show you how to do it. Now I mentioned before that this timing cover upper section needs to be removed to access a bolt going through here. 1, 2, where are we? 3, and there's also a fourth fella down here. Now if you just grab this little bracket and give it a little bit of a heave-ho, you won't actually have to undo that bracket further on. Just bend it back a touch and then this cover should in fact come off. And in all their wisdom, as I mentioned, there's the little bolt right there. Can you see him? There he is right there. Don't forget to undo it. That's super, super important. Other things that I've undone already include the throttle body connector here, our temperature sensor over here, our EGR over here. Also another tip, it's not a bad idea to shove a rag down in front of your timing belt here, because when you undo this little sucker up here, this bolt, where's he gone? There he is. You don't want that falling down, right down to the bottom of the engine. Have to pull the timing cover off to do that. So shove a rag in there, and if you have any trouble, just keep a magnet nearby, and that bolt should pull onto your magnet so that you don't drop it. And on the exhaust side of things, we need to get rid of these two bolts, this guy here and this bolt here. That way we can pull our vacuum pipe backwards away from the rocker cover before we try and pull it off. And this big wiring loom here that has the injectors attached to it, once you've got those disconnected, needs to be pulled off here. There's just sort of a little lever on the other side that you push down and that'll slide back that way. Once all this wiring's out the road, just heave it over there. And like I said, I hang it off the wiper arm there. I just get a bit of rope. So all my wiring loom is just pulled to one side. So I've pretty much got all my wiring sorted, ready to come off. All the injector lines are off. What else have we got back here? So you need to get these wiring looms out of their little holders. So you might need to shove a screwdriver and lift up levers and bits and pieces. They're a bit of a pain in the bum, but that's just how it is. Oh, another thing too, there's a couple of bolts down here that you might need to be aware of. They're dipstick retaining clamps, I guess you could say. This guy here is a 14mm. This fella over here is a 12mm. So you need to pop those off because that's attached to the inlet manifold, which of course needs to come off. Now look, I don't know what other people do, but I've physically removed the entire EGR valve. Of course there's 4 14mm bolts being held in here, which holds the EGR valve that away onto the inlet manifold, but there's only a couple of, I think they're 12mm down there, onto the cooler. And it's a lot easier to get the whole thing right out the road, so you've got plenty more clearance and space to work around. So I removed the entire EGR valve right down onto the cooler there. Now that the EGR valve is out the road, I've got access to the injector pipe brackety type things. That's what they're called. They can get undone. Of course, there's a few others hidden down. A bit hard to show you, I think. Oh yeah, there's one there. See that little guy there, and there's another one there. So yeah, these little 10mm bolts with brackets holding the injector pipes, they're hidden away. So you've really got to have a decent look and make sure you get them all. And just an extra heads up, if I can get my camera in there, there's another bracket right there. That little guy there has got a bolt coming in, that bracket there going into the inlet manifold. You've got to get rid of that fella too. Nice. Oh, also, there was a earth strap, earth strap that I've pulled off, 10mm bolt just there. And of course the map sensor hose goes onto a little port just here. You just pull that off and there's a sort of a brackety thing holding it just there. Okay, cool. As I stated, I just pull the wiring loom back and tie it back with a bit of rope onto the wiper arm itself. Now I can get rid of some of these bolts here, extra bolts with brackets over here and over here, and then I can start on the inlet manifold itself, which consists of a row of bolts going back that way. So that's next. I've undone all those bolts that I mentioned, these guys here that hold the vacuum pipe on. So I've now disconnected it over there as well. So we've got the rubber hose disconnected. You can just turn this fella over, twist him over somewhere, and just shove it to one side so you can get your rocker cover off. Pull him over there like that. And the other fella, once that stays there, good one, Max. And that other fella, you can do the same. Just twist it backwards out the road, then you've got access to your inlet manifold and your rocker cover. Almost there. So to get the inlet manifold off itself, it's held in by these bolts here. One, and then there's another guy, little fella down in there, okay? So just follow those back. Now one tricksy thing you want to keep in mind is that one of these guys, I've put white marker pen on this previously, leave that fella in the inlet manifold, okay? You can't really get it on easily if you pull it out. So just leave it in there, undo it, leave it in there, pull the rocker cover or the inlet manifold off, bonk, leave that guy in there so that when you put it back in, you're not struggling to try and get the bolt in. And just to make your day a little more interesting, right at the back of the inlet manifold are 3 bolts or studs. There's a stud there. There's a bolt there, and on the back, right around the back there, not sure if you can see him, there's another stud, a little bit hard to get to. Use a quarter drive, makes it nice and easy to get off, or easier to get off anyway. Once those are off, this guy's done, and a couple of other bits and pieces, it's ready to come off. Okay, also found another little tricksy bolt that I forgot to tell you about. Remember I was telling you about these dipstick bolts in here and over here? Well, if you shove that to one side, there's another guy right down in there. Not sure if I can focus on it, but I can point with my fingy is over there somewhere, if you can see it. Whoops, in through there. Okay, so there you go. There's another bracket that's holding onto the inlet manifold, so you need to get rid of that guy, and then the inlet manifold should be ready to come off, I think. So drum roll please. Let's see if we can get this thing off. Okay, remember this bolt here, I've just got to lift it up so it doesn't get caught. We should be right to get that up and over now. That's my theory. Of course, up the front here, you don't want to get it caught on the coolant hoses. So it is a bit of a wiggle jiggle situation, but there we go. She's off and out of here. Now that we've got that bad boy out the road, I intend taking off the injector lines. Remember, they're going to be replaced. Also look for any other brackets. There's a couple of brackets still in there. I think there's that one, and there might be another little guy around. There's one here, and I think there's another one down there. But to get the injector pipes off the rail itself, I use what's called a crow's foot. I'm not sure if you can see that. There you go, crow's foot. Okay, really helpful tool to get onto pipes, etc. You can use with your ratchet. I'll just show you what I mean. So there's number 1 there, and that goes down there. Let's sneak him on there, see how we go. Get rid of that gasket first. Come on fella, hup, there you go. So we'll put that on there. Now keep in mind these pipes are pretty tight, so you might need maybe a bit longer thing than this. I'll go and grab something different. So this might take a little bit to get off. You need to use your max muscles, of course, and get that in place. And hopefully we should be able to, like that, undo it. Sweet. Okay, and of course, just rinse and repeat with the rest of them. You don't need to undo the one that goes from the pump, which will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that will be the central one. So you don't need to undo this guy here, that fella there, simply because that goes to the pump. We're not actually pulling that off. Okay, so of course we don't need to undo that little bolt there, but these guys here we do need to before we can get our rocker cover off. And of course here they're just 17mm nuts. Just undo them with a spanner, dum 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 dum, and then pull the whole lot off. You may or may not be aware that in the owner's service and warranty booklet in the glove box, together with their owner's manual, on page 34 is listed the injector, fuel injector supply line, service schedule and record. So in other words, every time you remove injector pipes, they should be noted in this column here. Every 6th time, the pipes themselves should be replaced. That's the recommendation by the manufacturer. So when you're quoting for this, make sure you check this record and find out that's providing the last technician's done the right thing and listed it, but every 6th time, the injector pipes must be replaced. And because I'm particularly old and crusty, I've made up sort of like a little leaning post, if you will. What we do is we cover our customer's vehicle with all these goodies, make sure that everything is nicely covered. Then I have a piece of timber that fits over the top like that way. There we go, push him up against that. And then after that, I put some more comfort for myself. Just a couple of these guys, just to finish it off. It looks a bit grotty. Just so that you can protect your knees, because guys, I tell you what, it's tough when you're doing this, adjusting the valves, leaning over with your back, etc. It can really wear you down. So make up something like this, it's not that hard. You're protecting your customer's vehicle by, you know, putting on rags here, there and everywhere. And as long as it doesn't shift, you just got to make sure it stays in there. It's all good. Comfort zone. And a word of advice, just lay a rag, after I've got all those pipes off, lay a rag over the inlet there, so that you don't lose any rocker cover bolts as you pull them out down there. That would be very, very sad. Okay, so just cover it all over. Now I'm going to pull off the rocker cover. There's like 10 mil, 10 mil, 10 mil, 10 mil, like millions of them there. Once you've done that, whoosh, lift her up and over the injectors, carefully over the seals, and then we can toss it on the bench. We haven't even adjusted the clearances yet. Oh, happy days. We're now at the pointy end of the removal, so let's just get this up. I needed to get a screwdriver in either side just to lever it up a little bit. As you can see, she's ready to go. As I said, just keep an eye on these seals, particularly when you're putting them back on. You want to look after them and not give them too much grief. So just get that over the injectors if we can. This side here might need a bit of encouragement too, because it sort of catches a little bit. But fingers crossed, move that up and over and round, we should be right. That's my theory. That's how it's come off before, at least. Okay, what's it catching on now? That fella there. Alternatively, you can undo this coolant pipe, of course, but then you've got coolant leaking, and these little vacuum hoses as well, or you can just stretch it, one or the other. Either way, whatever you decide, hopefully it should come off. You can see that there's holes down here. Fill them up with a bit of paper. Don't forget to pull them out when you're finished. To get ready to adjust our valve clearances, we need to have it on top dead center, either number 1 or number 4. At this point in time, it doesn't really matter. But notice here on the camshaft, we've got a little mark. And on the back plate here, we also have a mark. They need to be lined up. Of course, if we head downstairs there, I'll zoom in a little bit for you there, guys, if I may. It's a little bit hard to focus, but you can see on the plastic cover, you can see there's a T written on there, and also on the pulley, the crank pulley, there's a little mark. They're lined up together. It's now ready to adjust the valve clearances. At the moment, we're on top dead center number 1. You can see the back of the lobes here, or the pointy bits of the lobes, they're sticking up. And that's what we need. We need the back of the lobe in contact with the rocker arm. And these guys here should be loose-ish. As you can see, I can move it a little bit. There's not much clearance, of course, on these. But on the back one over there, let's go to the back, you can see that the lobes are pointing down. And in actual fact, if you went to move those rockers, there would be no movement whatsoever because they're just about to lift the valves. So which ones do we adjust? The easiest method that I've found for doing valve clearances is not the one up, one down method as some people use, but simply put your engine on top dead center. And in this case, we're top dead center compression number 1. Now, as I said, the lobes are pointing up. The method I use only takes one rotation of the engine to do all the valves. So I'll show you what I do. This is the inlet side. This is the exhaust side over here. So what I'll do is I'll adjust the inlet on number 1, the exhaust on number 1, the inlet on number 2, and the exhaust on number 3. Now remember, the adjustments that we needed was inlet was
was 0.09, the exhaust was 0.14. So let's see what these adjustments are like and if I need to make any adjustments at all. You're probably thinking to yourself, well, what is a correct adjustment? And I'm glad you asked. It should just have a bit of a drag attached to it. Right, so you should be able to just gently pull it out and it should drag against it like that. Shouldn't be too hard, shouldn't be too easy to pull out. And of course, if you did want to be dead certain, then you'd have to go one size larger and one size smaller. If the smaller size went through easily and the large size didn't go through, then that would indicate that it's correct. You can get some feeler gauges called go, no go. But I've just got these. You get a feel for them after a while anyway. So you should be able to push them in. Takes a bit of a wiggle jiggle to get in. And then once you're in, you should be able to just gently pull it out and you'll feel a bit of a drag across there. Let's see if that slides under. Yep, that slides under nicely. Let's try the next one. They're a little bit wiggly jiggly to get under because of the angle of the dangle. But once it's under, it should be okay. That one might be a fraction tight. So I'll show you how I adjust those. There's an adjustment nut down here, not sure if you can see or not. Originally I undid the lock nut by using this socket here. You can see that I've ground it down flat and I had a shifter on there. It was all a bit messy with a screwdriver going through the guts of it. So I splurged and went and got myself a tool like this, really good. 12mm on the top and you've got a screwdriver in the centre there to do the adjustments. You simply put it onto the nut there, undo the lock nut. And now I can make the adjustment. It was a fraction tight in my opinion. There we go. I've just given it a tiny bit there. Our inlet was 0.9. Whoops, that one there, wasn't it? Still a little bit tight. We'll just back him off again and have another shot. Ah, bee's knees, mate, bee's knees. Okay. So that's going through all right now. After a little bit of a wiggle jiggle, that was tight. So let's move on. But before I do anything else, how do I remember what I've done and what I haven't done? Well, it's pretty important that we do that. So grab yourself a texture of some description. White, yellow, really doesn't matter. And I can see that I've been here before because there's little white marks on the screws themselves. So I've done these two. I'll just put a little bit of yellow on there. I had white on there before, so now I can see the difference. I can now move forward. Remember, I've got to do the inlet on number 2 next. Once again, we've got one that's tight and one that's loose. So the leading one here is a little bit tight. That second one is just fine. So I've done the intake on number 2 here now. I'm happy with those. I've got to put my yellow dots on there. But now we can head over to the exhaust side over here and adjust those. Look, it's exactly the same process. I'm not going to bore you with it, but just keep in mind, don't lean on these injectors, right? They're plastic, there's a solenoid there, you could snap it or break it. So if you've got to lean with your hands, lean on the turbo or something along those lines so you don't damage the injectors at all. They're quite sensitive. Oh, sorry, didn't mean to upset you being so sensitive. Alrighty then. So I've done these two. Here, number 1, and then of course number 3 over here, exhaust is next. You can see by the little yellow dots everywhere that I've completed all the ones that I need to for the first cycle. Okay, so what I did was inlet over this side, number 1, inlet number 2, exhaust number 1, and exhaust number 3 over there. I'm now going to turn the engine over so that we'll have compression number 4, and then I just do the reversal of what I just did. I've now rotated the engine 360 degrees. Not sure if you can see the mark down there, but it is in fact lined up perfectly on the T mark. And if you look at our camshaft, you can see that our mark is now in the opposite direction. How does that affect our valves? Well, have a look, guys. The ones that I've done, the lobes are now pointing down, so they're just about to open the valves. However, the ones that we want to adjust are up at the back, and they are nice. So the lobes are pointing up. Remember I said inlet number 4, exhaust number 4, inlet number 3, and exhaust number 2. There. Then that way I'll have all my little yellow dots done, all the valves adjusted, just in one rotation of the engine. Pretty cool. All the valve clearances are done as indicated by my little yellow dots. They're all there, they're all happy. They have been adjusted and double checked to make sure everything's okay. Big job, not a 5-second job. Time to clean up all the parts and put it back together. Not the funnest of jobs, but I guess it's got to get done, hey. With the rocker cover installed, locked and loaded, we're ready for all the other parts, including the inlet manifold over there and the upper cover of the timing cover. But before we get excited and put on the inlet manifold, don't forget to put on your injector pipes here. I'll put those new ones on, and don't forget the anchor bolts here for the clamps that go on here, and there's one little sucker down there. The injector union nuts here and down on the rail are 35 Newton meters plus or minus 5 Newton meters, so make sure that they're torqued correctly. Next, the timing cover goes on, or that upper section, together with the brackets. And don't forget that little bolt that's stuck up under there. I don't know if I can show you or not, get down low enough. Oh, there he is, he's right there. Don't forget that guy, and certainly don't drop him downstairs at all. Shove a rag down in there so that you don't lose it. Inlet manifold is now back on. I've torqued all these bolts accordingly, those rows and rows over there, including those guys back there, the nuts. And leaving this bolt in here was making it so much easier. I highly recommend it. Keep in mind too that there's these injector clamps back here that need to be, the bolts need to be put in. This guy just here, and there's another one around the corner there. So don't forget to put those in too, guys. Okay, vacuum pump pipe brackets next. One here, one over here. Then we go over the other side. There's a bracket held in the middle. Let's go over the other side. There's one fella here, as well as, where's the other guy? Right there, okay. Don't forget your earth strap and your map sensor hose as well. That guy's next. There's also these brackets down here, don't forget. There's one for the engine dipstick, transmission dipstick, and there's also another bracket. Where is he? Can I point? Can I point? It's just down there somewhere, I think. Am I pointing at it right? I think so. So, yeah, there it is there. Okay, so there's another one to be put in there. 1, 2, 3, done. EGR valve is next, including the wiring that's stuck up on the top. All the wiring has now been reinstalled, and as far as I know, the only thing that needs to go is my intercooler hose back into position. I think that's about it. Should be ready to start up then, I hope. Ready to start. It just cranked over for a little while too long in my opinion, so I've gone and primed our low pressure pump. Just primed that to get high pressure up to the high pressure pump. And as soon as that goes hardish, max muscles can't push it down, it's ready to start. And allowing the glow plug to come on, that little guy over there, out he goes, it should start. Okie dokie, no problemo. Of course, there's still things to be tidied up and the ultimate road test needs to be done. This is just part of the service that I'm doing right now, but I thought you might enjoy learning how to do valve clearances. On this particular model, hell, it's a big job. If you did enjoy this video today and you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel, give it a like and feel free to comment down below. Of course, don't forget about that notification bell. You don't want to miss any future videos. You can catch up with us, of course, on Facebook, the Insta as well. So guys, I've got to complete the rest of this service. Until next time, this is Miracle Max signing off. I will catch you later.